Hello and welcome to another reaction video. Today we're taking a look at the June 21st, 2023 Nintendo Direct. As always, there have been a ton of rumors, and a lot of them sound too good to be true, so I'm very curious to see what's actually here. I also won't be able to watch it live, because it's at 7 AM, so I'll do my best to avoid spoilers until I get a chance to watch it. I actually wanted to do a video on a bunch of events over the summer, including the Summer Games Fest, so this actually works out nicely. I am really excited for this game, and it's actually nice to get a better look at, presumably the Switch version. There were a couple of screenshots that definitely looked pretty blurry, but I feel like in motion it won't be a problem on the Switch version. It's really cool having all 4 characters, and having like Chaos Emerald powers, and like new aesthetic looks really interesting too, because it reminds me a lot of the dioramas from Sonic Origins, which to my understanding was kind of designed to lead into Sonic Superstars, so it makes sense. But again, this game looks really good. Previews at the Summer Games Fest were very positive. The frame rate doesn't look the best on Switch in 4-player co-op, but it does look fine in single player, so he was hoping it's not too bad. Also, Fang is back, which is very exciting. That also makes sense why the Game Gear games have been added into Origins. This was at the Xbox showcase. What I'm really wondering is if rumors of Persona 3 are also true, because this was directly confirmed for Switch, but not Persona 3, but it has leaked in multiple retailer listings, so we'll have to wait and see. This reminds me a lot of Mario and Rabbids, so I'm kind of interested. I'm wondering if they'll talk more about the DLC, or if this is just on a Splatfest. I also hope there's another special stage too, because even though the Zelda stage last time was kind of a mess in terms of overall level design and balance, it was actually really nice having an exclusive stage, kind of like the Shifty Stations back during Splatoon 2. Is this Detective Pikachu? Because there have been rumblings about a new Detective Pikachu. Yep, it's definitely Detective Pikachu. There's been a lot of rumors about this. This was announced years ago. I still haven't played the first game, actually. I heard it was kind of just okay, so I never got around to it. It's actually unusual having this many Pokemon announcements in a Direct. Usually they save these for their own showcase, so this is actually really surprising. Oh my god, it's actually happening. This was rumored before the Direct. I'm really curious to see how this looks. I like this. It definitely looks like it's going for the vibe of the original art style, like the promo images. I was kind of hoping for an HD 2D remake, to be honest, but again, because of the original style of Mario RPG, this makes sense, actually. This looks really fun. I was actually planning to revisit Mario RPG for a Let's Play at some point, so I would probably just do the remake instead. This looks very interesting, though. Mario RPG is fantastic, and I'm really glad more people get to experience it. I'm also really looking forward to the remixes, if this is any indication. But yeah, this felt like a pipe dream, to be honest. I can't believe this is actually happening, so I am very excited about this. It also feels wild to just have another Mario RPG period, given that the Paper Mario series has moved towards more of an adventure style of gameplay. Part of me wonders if this is testing the waters to get back to Mario RPGs. Oh wow, Princess Peach is finally getting another game after like 20 years? When was Super Princess Peach? That was like 2005, I want to say. This also works out really well, given that I've kind of thought about doing a playthrough of Luigi's Mansion 3, and now I won't have to skip Dark Moon, potentially. I do wish Dark Moon looked more like Luigi's Mansion 3, because I do think that is one of the best looking Switch games. I wish it was at that level, but oh well. I swear this leaked years ago, and I'm really wondering what this will entail. That frame rate doesn't look the best, though that might just be a trailer thing. It will be the trilogy, so once again Arkham Origins gets left behind. I don't know how this game is going to work on Switch. I'm very fascinated to see how they get Arkham Knight to work on Switch of all things, because I still think that's probably one of the best looking PS4 games, actually. Despite its low resolution, it was really punching above its weight, kind of like Assassin's Creed Unity, where it didn't run the best, but it definitely looked fantastic for the time. The combat of this gives me some fantasy-like vibes, which is very interesting. I'm very intrigued by this game. The farming sim counter is now up to 2. I know that was a big talking point during the September Direct last year. I find it very fascinating how it feels like Overcooked has become its own multiplayer genre. It does feel like a really good concept, and it's cool to see different companies have their own spin on this idea of like a 4-player co-op type game of this style. I still haven't finished Kingdom Battle, to be honest, so I am definitely a ways off from trying Sparks of Hope. I've heard it's actually pretty okay, though in general it feels like it's been received slightly worse. The final DLC will have Rayman as a character, so that's exciting for fans of that character, given that the Rabbids kind of took over the Rayman franchise. So it is going to be interesting. Oh, there's a demo, that's great. I might try that because I, again, still haven't finished Kingdom Battle. I'm not even a Dragon Quest fan, but I feel like I can see something Dragon Quest and immediately know what it is just because of the art style being so distinct. I assume this is Dragon Quest Monsters, which I think was announced for Switch a while ago. Also, what the heck happened to Dragon Quest III 2D HD? Because that was announced years ago, it feels like, and just vanished, and they've already made like multiple HD 2D games since, like, I want to say Triangle Strategy, Live Alive, and Octopath 2, so I have no clue what happened to that. I am really excited for this. It's no secret by now that I am a huge Pikmin fan. Oh, they're bringing back the Mamuta, that's interesting, that's new. I also saw one of the spider enemies that was typically underground. I am blanking on the name actually, but it was like an ice variant it looked like. They already did a story trailer of sorts that showed there's character creation. That is interesting, how the HUD looks actually. There's also a health bar for Oatchi as well, which is very interesting. It's a very different look because it is definitely more set in the real world than the previous games, which almost felt like an abandoned Earth, while this very much still feels lived in. Obviously that can be explained by Pikmin are very tiny, and thus you're just seeing a different part of the world than you've ever seen before. I'm also very curious to see how the Ice Pikmin work, and also if we'll get any more types too, because we've only seen... Oh, that's cool, an SP. We've only seen one type, and usually they add 1 or 2 types. That is a cannon beetle, but that... I'm trying to figure out if that is like an adult cannon beetle like in Pikmin 1, or like a mid-stage, like between the larva from 2 and 3. These look very elaborate. These look a lot like the that is very much like the challenge levels from Pikmin 3 with the conveyor belts. I'm very excited for this game. I'm really curious to see how they balance the caves this time, given that that was kind of a problem with Pikmin 2, both from a... You can save constantly, so they can make the game really difficult. And also trying to kind of balance the various mechanics of like the time limit of Pikmin in general, because of that being such an integral part. It does feel like the multiplayer is limited more towards, or limited more to battle mode again, like in Pikmin 3 on Wii U, which is kind of a bummer, to be honest. I actually kind of liked how 3 Deluxe added co-op, but I don't know how well the game could run because this does look a lot more ambitious than previous Pikmin game. That's very interesting, having skills in the Pikmin game. To be honest, I wasn't quite expecting that. This does look very interesting. And there it is, a new type of Pikmin. I assume that will be added to the box art as well, because that was like a placeholder for the longest time. I wonder how situational Pikmin are. Like here it looks like the glow Pikmin are primarily just used for like nighttime expeditions. And it feels like we've never seen blue and ice Pikmin at the same time. So I'm very curious to see what is going on here with the overall balancing. Again, this is like, what, the 3rd Nintendo game to have Konpaito in it, with Mario Galaxy and Skyward Sword. And Rock Pikmin are back, it looks like. I was really hoping they'd do this. I wasn't expecting it. Oh wow, a shadow drop today. That's cool. Oh, that's cool. I wasn't entirely expecting this collection to be on other platforms. So that's really nice, actually. I might actually finally play 1, because I still haven't. I've played 2 through 5, but not the first game. I've heard there will be a couple changes, like getting rid of historical footage in some cases because of copyright. It'll also be nice to have, hopefully, a good handheld version, given that Snake Eater, for example, on 3DS was not the best because it ran at like 20 FPS, and there was also a Vita version, so I really hope these versions run well. They definitely look like they're running at like 30 FPS, I don't know if that's a trailer thing. Oh wow, they're actually including a bunch of stuff in this, like Snake's Revenge, which was like, I want to say like an American Konami sequel that wasn't like Metal Gear 2. I am really wondering how this will run, given how hectic this game can get. I'm also really curious with Vampire Survivors, especially given that, like, I'm pretty sure on Xbox it also has some performance issues at launch. I don't know if they ever fixed that, to be honest. So yeah, I'm wondering how this will fare on Switch. This is a fun game for what it's worth. I definitely have burnt out on it, sadly. But for what it's worth, if it's like only a few dollars, it is definitely worth trying, because it's definitely... Also, this is not a good game to demo in like a live stream, given that it is kind of bad for the bitrate. Is that new? Was that in the other versions? I actually don't know. Oh, this is what they're up to, the Sonic Mania team. It looks really cool, actually. It immediately made me think of like a 6th gen 3D platformer in like a good way, where it just has that sort of unique style that definitely just kind of screams that era of like GameCube and PS2. This has been rumored for so long based on Mario Kart Tour data mining that there'd be a bathroom-inspired course. It's kind of crazy to finally see it in action. I'm also wondering if this will completely derail my plans for my channel. Also, PD Piranha is being added, and Wiggler, that's cool. A lot of people are hoping for Diddy and Dixie Kong, though there are rumors of possibly like a DK track in the future. I almost feel like they could do an entire... Oh wow, we're getting 3 characters. I almost feel like we could get an entire separate booster course past Volume 2, for example, with how many courses are left in Tour, though. Still no release date, which is actually good for my planning, at least. Square actually leaked this themselves, basically, by having the logo on the website. This is very interesting. I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, given that the title of it was for the PS1 version and not the PSP remake. It's a very unique style, and I'm not entirely sure how to feel about it, but it's definitely interesting. I've heard this is like the really good Star Ocean, given that some of the later Star Ocean games are a little bit hit or miss. So I'm curious in this game, but I'm definitely, yeah, not entirely sold on the art style. It's definitely interesting, and I think I could definitely warm up to it, but yeah, this was just not what I was expecting this game to look like. It almost feels like it's trying to go for an HD 2D look, but also still trying to like retain the art style of Star Ocean, which is very different than like HD 2D in my opinion from what I've seen of the older games. So yeah, it's an interesting blend. So yeah, I'm very intrigued, and again, this in a way was a lot more ambitious than I was expecting. There was already a PSP remaster for PS4, so it kind of makes sense that they were doing something else. But after First Departure art, this definitely feels a lot more ambitious, and I guess that is our Square Enix remake for this direct, and not like Final Fantasy Tactics or something. We are getting 2 WarioWare games on the same console, which I feel like that hasn't happened in a very long time. Probably the DS with the DIY game and Touched. So the other game was kind of experimental. This feels more like traditional WarioWare, and by traditional I mean kind of like a successor to Smooth Moves. So I'm in. I like WarioWare a lot, and this definitely feels a lot more, yeah, up my alley, given that I wasn't super sold on the last game, Get It Together. So yeah, something a little bit more traditional, I think, will be interesting. And again, these types of games are so experimental that I think having 2 is totally fine on one console, because they kind of are aiming to do very different things. Oh wow. These did leak from data mining, but I was not expecting that pose for Zelda because I don't remember that from any official art. Huh. This was also rumored before the Direct, that there'd be a new 2D Mario game with a brand new art style. This is very interesting, actually. It's also kind of wild to think we're getting a new 2D Sonic game and a 2D Mario game potentially in the same year. I think this looks very interesting. I'm curious to see how ambitious the level design gets, for example. And there's also some elements of voice acting, it seems like, with these little flower characters. We also have new power-ups, it looks like. This definitely looks like a nice change of pace after New Super Mario Bros., for example. Given that those games were getting fairly stagnant at this point, having a brand new art style for both Mario himself and also everything else is actually really nice. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Oh good, Peach is finally playable. I remember that was a really annoying thing about the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Also Daisy's here, that's great too. And Yoshi's back as well. I really like this art style actually. Overall, that was a pretty good Direct, but I think I liked the last one a little bit more personally. Partly just because a lot of things, frankly, got leaked really close to this announcement, so it didn't have as much punch as, for example, getting a new Fantasy Life or Professor Layton kind of out of nowhere, especially in that case because of, again, level 5 being in very dire straits for a very long time, so having them show up with 3 games at a Direct was very surprising. This was still an okay showing, but I think for me personally, there wasn't as much that was particularly interesting. You know, obviously, again, I still haven't played the base game for Scarlet and Violet. Sonic, I'm really excited about, but we knew about it already. I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't hear about Persona 3 Reload, again, because there were so many retail listings about this coming to Switch. So I was kind of expecting, if it was correct, that it would be here, and it actually wasn't here, so that's very interesting. Mario RPG was the big surprise-ish. Again, it leaked, unfortunately. Personally, that's probably the most exciting game for me personally, as someone who really loves Mario RPG. There were also rumors about a Paper Mario remake, and I definitely feel like starting the Princess Peach trailer with a curtain was possibly something that would have gotten people's hopes up, that we're getting both Mario RPG and Paper Mario, but I think that would be such a far-fetched idea. I actually also wish that the first game was included here too, because I also kind of would like to go through the first game again, and if they did like a 3DS port of the first game to the Switch where it should have been in the first place, to be blunt, with Dark Moon, I think that would be more exciting than just Dark Moon by itself, because I'm pretty sure both are on the same engine. Maybe they will do both. Who knows? Personally, I don't feel super strongly about Dark Moon, but because I really want to do Luigi's Mansion 3, I've been sort of looking for ways to go through Dark Moon again, and that works out really well. Again, maybe I'll enjoy it more than on my first playthrough on a 3DS. Also with more traditional controls, probably, not having to rely as much on like gyro, for example, might help. But for me, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon has like pacing issues. 3 does too, to be fair. Both being longer games than the first game, they both run into pacing problems. But Luigi's Mansion 3 is, in my opinion, one of the best looking games for the Switch. And yeah, I do wish this was visually on par with Luigi's Mansion 3, though that may be a tall ask. That'd be a totally new game at that point. Also, I wonder if it's Grezzo, because Grezzo did an Apple Arcade game recently, and people were wondering what they were working on for Nintendo, and it's probably just Dark Moon on Switch, which is kind of a bummer. A lot of people were hoping for a 2D Zelda project of some kind. Scrolling through, there were a lot of interesting games, but again, I almost feel like this was sort of more understated. I almost feel like when you hear a June Direct, you think E3, but this isn't really E3, because E3 didn't really happen this year. The main thing with this Direct was, for first party, it was very focused on this year, as the title of the Direct indicated. The only, not this year game from Nintendo directly, I want to say, was the Princess Peach game, which didn't even get a title. So it makes me wonder, because the traditional strategy is at least February and at least September. maybe June, if there's an E3, or in this case, because of rumors that have been circulating for literal months, that Nintendo was not even planning to do E3 in the first place. They had a Direct all ready to go. It wasn't like a sudden, oh wait, E3 isn't happening. It's a case of they had their own plans. So, the omissions that really stand out to me is basically just Metroid Prime 4, because that game has been MIA for so long. It rebooted development like 4 to 5 years ago, which means we should be within the range of hearing about it. So that really raises the question of when will we hear about it? And to be honest, my theory is actually at the September Direct. There have also been a ton of other rumors. Again, rumors are very nebulous. In this case, a lot of the rumors did come true, which, again, is actually kind of unfortunate. I actually prefer when things don't get spoiled to this degree, but a lot of the Mario projects did get spoiled, which does take the wind out of the sails of this event. I mean, having also, Pikmin 1 and 2 available today, I'm really curious to see how they look. The title screens looked a little bit more high res, but it was a little bit. They didn't show gameplay, which is unfortunate. But again, it's nice that more people get a chance to play Pikmin 1 and 2. Godspeed to anyone playing Pikmin 2 for the first time without a guide. You might not have the best time with it, to be honest. If you want to get into Pikmin, probably start with 3, and then play 1, and then if you like 1, play 2. I don't recommend playing 2 early on, because it has the steepest learning curve, and is very punishing. But I do really like the series, and I am glad more people will hopefully get a chance to try these out. Again, Metal Gear Solid's very surprising to me. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but I actually tried to do a video on a bunch of other events. In one case, one got blocked by YouTube for copyright, the one where I actually talked about this. So I'm actually very surprised that this is coming to Switch, because this is a Volume 1. My curiosity has been piqued by the term Volume 1, because what else is there? Obviously, there's something like 4, which is the big, holy grail, because of just that game being so tied to the PS3 cell architecture that porting it is a tall ask. I almost feel like Portable Ops and Peace Walker, the more likely of the games to be in Volume 2, considering this also includes, some of the other games as well, like the NES Metal Gear games, it looked like, from what I could tell. I'm kind of hopeful that maybe if there's a Volume 2, it might have things like the Acid games, or maybe even Revengeance, and have that available on more things than just the Series X. There was this game, again, they said it was by the Sonic Mania team, which is interesting. Again, it had big 6th gen console platformer vibes to it, and I'm really interested because of that. It's weirdly nostalgic despite being a new IP, just because of the atmosphere of it. Again, as someone who is currently working on the playthrough that will go until August, I'm actually glad we didn't get a release date for Wave 5, so I wouldn't have to throw out all my plans or delay some certain plans. Again, people are very much not expecting the bathroom course that had been rumored for a long time. There is a Piranha Plant course in tour. People were expecting that instead. It looks like an okay course, but again, it just wasn't what anyone was expecting. And we're getting 3 characters, so I wonder who we'll get for the final. I think there are 2 more slots after this. Star Ocean, again, that was leaked by Square directly, so again, that kind of took the wind out of the sails of this one, but again, it definitely looks different than I was expecting. So many Square Enix remakes have been rumored, like Final Fantasy Tactics is the big one, because of an Nvidia leak that has largely become true in the past, 4 or 5 years. There's also a 9 remake that's been rumored, though that's a ways off, apparently. The Amiibo, I was kind of wondering, because of data mining, what they'd look like, because a Zelda amiibo was found and a Ganondorf amiibo was found, but the pose for the Zelda amiibo specifically, I don't think is her key artwork from Tears of the Kingdom in that outfit. So that is actually very surprising to me. These unlock gliders, by the way, or alternate gliders for the paragliders. So they're essential, but they are nice to have. These two just look really cool too. And yeah, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, it definitely looks different. Having an elephant just makes me think Shantae, to be honest, and that's not a bad thing. Yeah, having new power-ups, having a new art style, Princess Peach and Princess Daisy, and it looks like Yoshi even, as playable characters, is really exciting. It's coming out in October, which is like crazy to think about that's only like 4 months away. So yeah, that's the overall takeaway I have of this direct. And yeah, obviously the elephant in the room, pun partially intended, was Metroid Prime not being here. But again, I'm almost more surprised we didn't get 2. Like, I almost thought they might shadow drop, like, 2 as, like, a port. Kind of like what you're doing with Pikmin. But just drop that now and basically be like, yeah, Metroid Prime 4, we'll talk about it eventually, but you can play 2 now. And then drop 3, like, October or something. And then lead into Prime 4. So yeah, if anything, I'm actually more surprised we didn't get any, like, port of Prime 2. A lot of the games I am excited about, obviously Mario RPG is the main standout. When was that again? November? That's the same day as Tactica, so I guess I'm not playing Tactica anytime soon. Yeah, we're getting a lot this year. It's very Mario heavy, which makes sense because of the movie just coming out. Obviously, if you're not into Mario, this year might be a little bit of a disappointment in the back half. It definitely feels like they front-loaded a lot of their niche series like Fire Emblem, Bayonetta, Xenoblade into the first half, and now the final half will just be like, hey, the Mario movie made like $1.3 billion. Here's like 3 Mario games to play. And also, obviously, again, I'm very curious to see what they do with this Princess Peach game. Because, again, the last one was Super Princess Peach in like 2005 or 2006, and that game was kind of interesting. I have a soft spot for it, but also admit that it definitely has some things that have not aged well. And yeah, the lack of any title for this is very interesting. We probably won't hear about this until maybe a February direct of next year, but who knows. But that about sums up my thoughts. This was an okay direct. Overall, I do think this was my favorite presentation of the Summer Games Fest season. I definitely didn't like the Sony showcase because the only single-player first-party game was Spider-Man. Summer Games Fest was good for Prince of Persia, Sonic, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The Xbox showcase had the Persona 3 reveal that leaked like 2 days early. And Starfield is looking very, very good as well. But personally, as someone who has grown up with Nintendo systems for most of my life, I am very biased, and I definitely am more personally excited for things like a Mario game than like a Starfield. But yeah, that about sums up my thoughts on this direct. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for another discussion.